Authentication is a core part of most Next.js applications. In this video, we will implement authentication using Supabase Auth. By the end, you will be able to sign up using an email address, log in using those credentials, sign in with Google, and use the same approach to integrate Facebook and GitHub as well, and protect private routes in a structured way. Let's get started. To set up Supabase Auth in our Next.js app, we will follow the official Supabase Auth documentation. Let's open the browser and search for Supabase Auth docs. Clicking the first link takes us to the official documentation, which has everything we need to get started. Now that we have the documentation open, let's click on Next.js. Here we get all the steps to configure Supabase Auth with the Next.js app router. So we will follow the steps one by one to set up Supabase Auth in our Next.js app. The first step is to create a new Supabase project. For that, click on Dashboard. Now to create a new project, click on New Project. Enter the project name you want. Next, set up the password for your project. Select the region closest to your users for the best performance. Finally, click on Create Project to initialize your Supabase project. Now you can see our project is ready. Let's move to the next step. Next, we will create a Next.js app using Supabase template. Copy this command and paste it into your terminal and run it. You can see our Next.js app is ready using the Supabase template. Next, we will declare the Supabase environment variables. So first we need to rename the .env example file to .env local. Now open .env.local. Here we will add our Supabase project URL and publishable key. Let's go to Supabase, select the project we created earlier, and here you will find your project URL and publishable key. Copy the project URL and paste it into the next public Supabase URL variable in .env local. Then copy the publishable key and paste it into the next public Supabase publishable key variable. And finally, now we are good to go. Let's start the development server and open our app in localhost. Here you can see our app is working. From the Supabase template, we get a sign-in form where you can log in using email and password. We also get a forgot password feature which lets you reset your password if you forget it. And finally, we have the sign-up form to create a new account. Now, let's create a new account using the sign-up form to check if it's actually working. Here you can see that after signing up, we get a confirmation pop-up telling us to check our email to confirm the account. This is really nice feature that comes built in with Supabase Auth, helping ensure our users verify their email before logging in. Now, let's go to Gmail and confirm our email. To confirm, click on confirm your email and you will be redirected to the login page. Now, let's log into our application by entering the email and password we just signed up with. And here you can see that we have successfully logged into our application. After logging in, we have been redirected to the protected page, a route that can only be accessed when logged in, thanks to Supabase. In the navbar, you can also see the logged in user's email and a logout button to sign out of the application. Now, one more thing, you can also see all the users who have signed up to your application. To check that, let's go to Supabase, then Authentication, and here under Users, you will see all the users who signed up. You can see their ID, display name, email, and the provider they used to sign up to your application. Next, if you go to Sign in or Providers, here you can manage your sign up settings. For example, allow new users to sign up. If you disable this, new users won't be able to sign up to your application. Then there is Allow Anonymous Sign. If you enable this, anyone can log in without a valid email. And next, Confirm Email. If you don't want your users to confirm their email after sign up, you can disable this option. Next, if you scroll down, you will see all the social providers that Supabase supports. In this tutorial, we will integrate Google, Facebook, and GitHub in the next steps. Now, let's make the app simpler by cleaning up the code, removing the default template code and optimizing it. You can skip this part if you want, but it helps to have a clean starting point for development. Let's go to VS Code. If you open page.tsx at the root, you will see the navbar. And if you open layout.tsx inside the protected route, you will see the same navbar there. What we will do is make this navbar reusable so we can use it anywhere in our app. Now let's copy this navbar code and create a new component called navbar. Paste the code here and we will use this component wherever we need the navbar. Now let's import all the required packages and components that our navbar needs. Make sure to include everything the navbar depends on so it works correctly in all pages. So our navbar component is ready. Let's now replace the existing navbar code with this reusable component. Now let's remove any imports we don't need anymore to keep our code clean and organized. Now let's remove the hero section and the footer to make the page clean. Instead we will add a simple homepage placeholder. Now let's go to browser and check the homepage. As you can see, our homepage placeholder is showing correctly and the navbar is working perfectly. Next, we will implement social auth providers in our application. First, we will implement Google. To implement the Google Auth provider in our app, we first need to enable sign in with Google in Supabase. Let's go to Supabase and click on Google. To enable sign in with Google, we need a client ID and client secret. Let's go to the Supabase Auth documentation, then social login, and inside that click on Google. Here you can see all the steps to integrate sign in with Google in your application. If you scroll down to the project setup section, you will find the steps to create a new OAuth client ID. Now, let's go to Google Auth Platform Console and create a new OAuth client ID. Now, select application type as web application. You can give a name to your OAuth client or leave it as it is. In authorized JavaScript origins, add your project URL. If your project is already deployed, you can add the live URL. If not, you can add localhost or leave it empty for local testing. In authorized redirect URLs, add the callback URL. To get this, let's go to Supabase, copy the callback URL and paste it here. Finally, click on Create to generate your OAuth client ID and secret. As you can see, our OAuth client ID is created. Click OK and open the OAuth client we just created. Here you can see the client ID and the client secret. Now let's add this to our Supabase project. Copy the client ID and paste it into the client ID field. Then copy the client secret and paste it into the client secret field. Now enable sign in with Google and click Save. Now that we have enabled the Google provider, next let's implement the UI for social providers in our application. First, we will create a reusable social auth button component. This button will handle the layout and click action for a single social provider. Later, we will use it inside the social auth buttons component to render all our social login buttons dynamically. Next, let's define the interface for this component. Next, let's define the props for this button. It will take children for the content and action for the click behavior. Now, let's assign this interface to our component. Now, let's replace the div with a button, render the children inside it, and add the on-click action. We will also add some styling, variant, outline, and class name width full. So our social auth button component is ready. Next, let's create the social auth buttons component. Here we will create the providers data for Google, Facebook, and GitHub. Then we will map through this data to render a social auth button for each provider. Now we will define type for our provider. A provider can be Google, Facebook, or GitHub. Next, we will define the type for our provider's data, like the name, label, icon, and size. Next, let's create our provider's data. Here you can see I have created the data for the Google provider. It includes the provider name, button label, icon and icon size. We will create the same object for Facebook and GitHub as well. Next, we will map through the provider's data and render a social auth button for each provider. Inside each button, we are rendering the provider icon and the button label using the data we define. Now our UI is ready. Next, let's go back to the Supabase Auth documentation. So far, we have created the OAuth client ID, enabled the Google provider, and built the social login buttons. If we scroll down here, you can see that Supabase provides an OAuth sign-in method using supabase.auth.signin with OAuth. We will use this inside our own function to handle social login. So let's go back to VS Code and create a function called handle OAuth login. This will be an async function that takes the provider as an argument. First, let's create a Supabase client instance so we can interact with the Supabase auth. Make sure to import create client from our client file, not from the server. Now, let's paste the code we copied from the docs. This uses supabase.auth.signin with auth, where we pass the provider and the redirect URL. Next, replace example.com with location.origin so the redirect URL automatically points to our app's current domain. Next, we will pass this function as the action prop to our social auth button. This way, when a user clicks the button, it will call handle OAuth login with the corresponding provider. Now, let's go back to the Supabase documentation. If you scroll down, the next step is to create a new file at app/auth/callback/route.ts. So let's create this file in our project. Next, let's copy this code and paste it into route.ts. What this code does is handle the code exchange and save the user session after the OAuth login. Now that we have everything set up, let's import and render the social auth buttons component in our login and sign up forms. This will display the social login buttons on the UI. Before we test sign in with Google, let's create and add a separator between the social login buttons and the form. This will make the UI look cleaner and more organized. Now let's go to the browser and try signing with Google. Now you can see that after clicking continue with Google, we are redirected to Google. Select the account you want to sign in with and then click on continue. And just like that, we have successfully logged in using Google. Next, we will implement sign in with Facebook. Let's go to Supabase and click on Facebook. To enable sign in with Facebook, we need a Facebook client ID and Facebook secret. You can find all the steps to enable Facebook Auth in the Supabase documentation. To get the client ID and secret, we need to create and configure a Facebook application on the Facebook developer site. Let's go to the Facebook developer site and log in. Once you are in, go to My Apps and click Create New App. Give your app a name and click Next. For the use case, select Authenticate and request data from users with Facebook login and click Next. For the business portfolio step, choose I don't want to connect a business portfolio yet. Then click Next again. This completes the app setup. Now your app is ready. Click Go to Dashboard, enter your account password and submit. This will take you to your app's dashboard where we can get the client ID and client secret for Supabase. Now go to Use Cases and click on Customize. Now in Permissions and Features, make sure to add the email permission. Next, go to Settings. Here we need to add a redirect URL. So let's go back to Supabase, copy the callback URL and paste it here as the redirect URL and click Save Changes. Now to get app ID and app secret, go to Basic App Settings. Here you can see both values which we will use to enable sign-in with Facebook in Supabase. Now copy the app ID and paste it into the Facebook app ID field. Then copy the app secret and paste it into the Facebook secret field. Now enable sign-in with Facebook and click Save. So we have successfully enabled the Facebook provider. Now let's go back to our app and try sign in with Facebook. And remember, we don't need to write a separate function for Facebook login. We already set everything up while implementing the Google provider. Now click on continue with Facebook. As you can see, we are redirected to Facebook. Just click continue. And that's it. We have successfully logged in using Facebook. So with this setup, you can easily add multiple social providers without changing your auth logic. Next, we will integrate the GitHub provider in our app. Let's go to Supabase and enable it. To enable GitHub login, we need a client ID and client secret. You can find all the steps in the Supabase documentation on enabling GitHub in your application. To get the client ID and client secret, we need to create and configure a GitHub OAuth app on GitHub. So let's go to GitHub and create our OAuth app. First, set your application name. Next, add the homepage URL. If your app is already deployed, use the deployed link, otherwise you can use localhost. Then, in authorized callback URL, add the callback URL from Supabase. Let's go to Supabase, copy the callback URL and paste it here. Finally, click Register Application to complete the setup. Now you can see we have the client ID and client secret. For the secret, click on Generate a new client secret to create it. Now copy the client ID and paste it into the client ID field in Supabase. Then copy the client secret and paste it into the client secret field. Now enable the GitHub provider and click Save. So now we have enabled GitHub provider. Let's go to our app and try sign in. As you can see, we are redirected to GitHub. Just click Authorize to allow access. And just like that, we have successfully logged in using GitHub. Everything is now fully set up for social login with Google, Facebook and GitHub. Next, we will see how to handle and protect our routes in a better way, so only authenticated users can access certain pages in our app. Supabase provides an example of protected route in the template. This route demonstrates how you can restrict access so that only authenticated users can view the page. Here's how it works. First, they create a Supabase client using create client. Then they call supabase.auth.getClaims to check the user's authentication claims. If there is an error or no claims are returned, the user is redirected to the login page. Otherwise, the route continues and returns the claims data, which can be used to authorize the user. But we can handle and protect our routes in a better way, so we don't have to write this code for every single route. Let's go to the middleware proxy.ts file and scroll down. Here you can see that by default Supabase is protecting all routes except the home page, login page and sign up page. This means that even if you create a new route and haven't explicitly protected it, the middleware still enforces protection. We want to take control over the route protection so that we can decide exactly which routes require authentication and which don't. So first, let's create some dummy routes to test our route protection. I have created few protected routes that I want to restrict access to, as well as some public routes that anyone can access. Before we implement our own route protection, let me show you the default Supabase behavior. Here you can see that when I try accessing a route I just created, Supabase protects it by default, even though we didn't explicitly add any protection. Now, let's implement our custom route protection so that we can take control and decide exactly which routes should be protected. First, let's remove the default if condition that was protecting all routes automatically. Next, we will create an array of protected routes. For me, that's dashboard and account. Then we check if the requested route is protected by seeing if the URL path name starts with any of our protected routes. Finally, we add a condition. If the route is protected and the user is not logged in, we redirect them to login page, otherwise the request continues normally. Now let's go to the browser and test our route protection to see it in action. Right now we are not logged in. Let's try accessing a public route. As you can see, we can access it without logging in, which works as expected. Now let's try accessing a protected route. You can see that we are redirected to the login page, just like we wanted. Next, let's log in and try accessing the protected route again. And now, after logging in, we have full access to the protected route. Now, what if there are nested routes? Let's test that by creating a dummy nested route inside dashboard. If we try accessing it without logging in, you can see that we are redirected to the login page, just like with the main route. Next, let's log in and access the nested route again. And as you can see, we get full access after logging in. The best part is we don't have to handle nested route protection separately. Our middleware automatically protects all routes that start with the paths we define in the protected routes array. And that's it. In this tutorial, we integrated social login with Google, Facebook, and GitHub and learned how to handle and protect routes in our app, including nested routes, so only authenticated users can access them. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.